There are a bunch of sequels I would like to get to before the end of the year. Let's talk about the 10 on my radar right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is essentially the 10 books that I want to read before the end of the year, and they are all sequels. I, like many avid readers, fall into the trap of the new and the shiny, or new series that we haven't started yet that we're interested in, and before you know it, you're in the middle of, I don't know, 20 to 50 to 200 series, especially in the fantasy world where there just seems to be more series than not. So I have definitely fallen into that trap, and I do have 10 sequels that I would like to get to before the end of the year. Everything going well, I'm going to make it a priority. So on each TBR, you'll see at least 1 to 2 sequels to start working through these, and also arc reviews and things like that. But that's for another video. So here are 10 that I would really like to get to before the end of the year. Some of these are chunky and a little bit intimidating. I haven't even included the rest of the Malazan series, which I would ideally finish before the end of the year. Anyway, that's enough crapping on from me, so let's just jump in. Now, the first one, I don't know if it's a cheat or not, but I'm currently listening to it right now, so tick, at least one of these will get done. That is Threshold of the Universe by T.A. Bruno. This is book 3 and the series conclusion to the Song of the Camarilla. I really enjoyed the first book in the Orbit of Sirens and the second book on the Winds of Caesars. I think I pronounced that incorrectly, so I'm listening to the audio of the third book and they don't pronounce it that way, but I cannot remember for the life of me how they pronounce it. This is a space opera, so an indie space opera. I've really enjoyed my time with it so far. The third book has been action-packed from the get-go, so I'm about 25% of the way in, and it's really just keeping me on the edge of my seat, and I'm really looking forward to finishing that series. The next one I have is also on my September TBR, which you would have seen by this point, and that is Dragon Your Bones by Tatiana Obi. This is the second book in the Forging of Age duology by the author. The first book is Bones to the Wind, which I absolutely loved. It is not a series or a book that I would normally gravitate towards, being in the new adult sort of era, but the book is written in such a compelling way. The characters are super compelling. The world is really well thought out, and I had a fantastic time with the first book. I have heard that the next project that the author is working on, you really do need to have read this duology. So I do want to be prepared for that, so I'm going ahead and hopefully finishing that duology off, and there'll be 2 completed series, at least 2 for 2024. The next one I have is the third installment of the Great Immortal Souls, I think the series is called, by Phil Tucker, and that is Last Rock, which is up here. One of my favorite covers that have come out in 2024. This is a continuation on from, we had Bastion as book 1 and the Rascal Plains as book 2. I listened to Rascal Plains earlier this year. Fantastic progression fantasy, and I'm looking forward to continuing on. I did wait until the audio came out, as I've been doing this series on audio, and I'm going to continue on with that with Last Rock, and I'll be caught up to date with this series once I finish that one. The next one I have is, I don't know, it may shock people that I'm still continuing on with the series, but it is The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. Again, I'm waiting for the audio to come out, read by Rosamund Pike, because I've really enjoyed her narration of the first 3 books, and that one is launching towards the end of September, I want to say, so I'll be doing this one on audio as well. This is a thick book, and I'm just guessing this one's going to be all about Rand, who is not my favorite, but it's 1,000 pages, so that one will take me a little bit of time doing it on audio. I read 2 Wheel of Time books last year, and I've enjoyed my time with the series so far, outside of Rand being who he is as a person, but I'm invested enough to keep going with book 4. I don't know if I'm invested enough to finish the whole series, but we'll see. So far, I'm still chugging along. I'm quite curious to see if I get to and how I go with the slog, because I tend to really like those slow burn books, but we'll see how we go, and even if we get to that point. But at least for now, book 4 is definitely on my radar for this year. Next one I have on my radar for this year, and I keep looking at it and not picking it up, is Empire of the Damned. I think it's been on a couple of TBRs already, and I've just not gotten to it. This is the second book in the Silver something. Silver, I don't know what it was called, from the first book. Silver Saints? I don't know, don't quote me on that. Anyway, this is book 2, and I'm looking to read this before the end of the year. Sorry, we'll just wait for Ari to come into the room. Your Majesty, would you like to get on your throne? Up you go. Okay. There's no blanket on that. Alas, it's in the wash. Okay, she's down. Empire of the Damned. That is one that I would also like to get to this year. The next one we have here is River of Stars by Lily and Crow, which I'll put up here. This is the second installment of The Will of the Wayfinder. I believe book 3 has come out already or is pretty soon to release. It's released this year anyway. I really need to get back on this series. The first book is super underrated and such an enjoyable fantasy, and I do need to get to book 2. So I'm hopeful that I'll get to book 2 and then be ready to read book 3, possibly in 2025, once I've gotten through that one. The next one I have is Don't Fear the Reaper. This is by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the second book in the Indian Lake trilogy. I really like the writing of the first book. I think I mentioned before, I probably should have checked my trigger warnings because it did get to me a little bit, but now that I know what's happening and the writing style and the issues that we're talking about in these books, I'm ready to dive back in. Stephen Graham Jones is a fantastic writer. I really enjoyed the first book, and I'm looking forward to reading more of his work, and I'll be continuing on with the second book of the Angel Lake trilogy. Next up, we have one that was kindly sent to me as an ARC, and I really do need to get to this one. Like I said very early on, I do want to start reading through, or make sure, not start, I'm still doing it, but make sure I'm giving the time to the ARCs, particularly as authors who have sent me these physical copies at their own cost. So I'll be picking up The Promise of the Betrayer's Dagger by Jay Torschool. The light's not going to like that one because it's very glossy in there, but it's a beautiful, beautiful cover done by Jamie Flack, one of my favorite covers, again, that I've seen this year. Just absolutely stunning. I really, really enjoyed book 1, and it taught me something, which doesn't always happen when I read a book, but I'm very much looking forward to reading the second installment, hopefully this year. So that is definitely on the list to read before the end of 2024. The next one I have here is A Treatise of Air. This is by C.L. Jarvis and a follow-up to The Doctrines of Fire. This is historical fantasy set in the 1800s at Edinburgh. I never pronounce it correctly. Edinburgh? I think it's Edinburgh. Where we're following like real life people or people who existed in real life in the 1800s, but fictionalizing some of the things that were happening. So the first one's about chemistry and a phlogiston. I can't pronounce it. Don't take my word for that. And this one is following Elizabeth. I want to say Elizabeth someone. Elizabeth Fulham is the person that we're following in this one. So I really like the first one, and I have the second and the third on my shelf. So I'm hoping to get to this one at some point before the end of the year as well. We've only got a few months left, so look out for these on my TBRs. And the last one that I have here is The Fall of the Giants by Gregory Taxis. I'll put the cover up here, which is the follow-up to Return of the Knights. So I enjoyed Return of the Knights and I enjoyed the novella. They weren't my favorite books of all time, but they're very easy reads. They're very comforting fantasy reads when you're looking for a bit of that sort of classic fantasy feeling. They definitely gave me that, and the author was kind enough to send me an e-copy of the second book, so I would like to read that as well this year and start, like I said, working my way through some of the arcs that I have. Those are 10 sequels that I want to get to this year. How are you going with your series reads? I'm genuinely interested. Let me know down below. Have you got heaps? Are you caught up to date? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. If you like the content, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.